Here was Concordia head men's soccer coach Jason Weides to preview the 2019 season, and as we sit today, it's just over a week from the first official game of the season. I think ever since really you got things going in 2011, this program's been on really good footing and very competitive within the rest of the league. Along those lines, how does this 2019 team kind of fit into that picture?
I think pretty similar to where we've been the past few years. I mean, I think we expect to be contenders this year. Certainly be a challenging road because there's a lot of good teams in our conference, and I don't think anybody's going to hand us anything. I think the difference now maybe than it was 4 or 5 years ago is people expect us to be a good team. I think they expect us to compete. So we're not going to catch anybody by surprise, but I think we expect to have similar goals that we've had in the past. Of course, we lose some quality players, but I think we're in the constant phase of it's never rebuilding. It's constantly just replacing and striving for new higher goals.
I know when we talked in the spring, you had some injuries and stuff that you're dealing with. You didn't. I don't think you ever had everybody completely together during the spring season. How have things moved along since then? I'm sure that was part of what your summer was like, keeping tabs on how guys were doing.
Yeah, I think first off, we had our returners, I think, put in some good work this summer. It was evident from day one that they showed up fit and in shape, and you could see that they weren't. There's always a little bit of rust when you first come into training, but they were able to dust that off really quickly. You could see that they've spent some time with the ball. So the newcomers look sharp and adapted quickly. So I think that's the difference between the spring is obviously the newcomers coming into the fold and not just intermixing that and seeing team chemistry and how it comes together. But just really seeing which of the newcomers are ready to make that impact right away and which are going to take a little time to develop and which returners are really going to take a big step forward, because I think really we'll have the luxury of both those happening.
Well, after what you saw in the spring, how did that inform you, kind of where you needed to go this preseason with things that had to be maybe ironed out or worked on or things that you knew were a strength too?
I think it showed us that we lost a lot within our back line. When you think about, obviously, Callum played a lot of minutes last year, but Jack Bennett, played a lot over the last couple of years. And so from the keeper along the back line, we had a couple starters in there that were seniors. So it was really finding the guys within the team currently this spring and kind of gelling that back line, when you say the back five along with the goalkeeper, and really just doing a lot of work on that. I think that's continued a little bit into this first week of preseason, in that the defensive side of the ball has been a bit of a focus. Certainly we've worked on moving forward, but I think the defensive side is something we spent a little bit more time and energy on, and we'll continue to do. I think the good news is I think we've got guys, both the returners that had some good added experiences this spring that I think really helped prepare them to move into those roles this year. We've got some newcomers, whether that be incoming freshmen or transfers, that seem prepared to help us out in those areas too.
Are you able to talk about who some of the guys are in competition for those spots yet, or is it maybe still a little too early?
I think it's a little too early. There's a lot to be ironed out. I think the good news is that this team is going to provide us with a lot of tough decisions as coaches. We've had some good teams in the past, and I do think that this might be one of the deepest in terms of from player 1 to player 30 in terms of the quality. I think the quality of the training each day has been a good standard and maybe higher early on than it has been before. So we have a lot of tough choices, I think, as coaches, and I think that's the good news, is that there's competition, which is, I think, really elevating other guys. Whether it's a returner that's seeing a newcomer is really going to push them for their spot, and now they're playing at a higher level, or that's a newcomer seeing that, oh yeah, this isn't going to be given to me. I'm going to really have to battle and work for this. It's really helping to drive the team forward. So I think the interesting thing for us will probably be at outside back. Because there'll be probably some new people in that position, both some newcomers to that mix, and then some returners that maybe are playing in that position that either they have some experience or they haven't played there before. So I think there'll be a little bit of shifting of positions, a few guys playing some spots that maybe they're not used to. And for us, I think that'll be, once we sort that out, we'll really be on one page.
You're looking ahead now at year 12 for you, more than a decade in this role. For you, what keeps things fresh and new now and heading into 2019?
I think it's always exciting just that first meeting to get everybody together in the same room and start talking about what we want to do, what we want to accomplish together. Because as much as we may have a direction of what we want to do and certainly overarching structure of our philosophies, it's more so their program than it is mine. I've just been the consistent theme for the past 12 years, but the players, they do all the hard work, they do all the heavy lifting, and they're the reason why we've had success in the past, and we'll continue to have success in the future. So I enjoy the coaching part of it, the teaching, so I enjoy the training a lot. So getting out here and getting training, especially kind of getting to know some of the new guys and seeing the interactions of how the team gels together, I think these are some of the fun times. And I think the preseason allows us more time to do some team bonding stuff, which is really nice. So we get a chance to spend some time outside of the training field and get to know each other and have fun, whether it's swimming or bowling or going to the lake, different activities like that. So it's just fun getting to know them and teaching them.
I think many of your teams in recent years have been pretty balanced when it comes to goal scoring. Not necessarily one guy that's looked upon to be the main guy, I guess. How does that look like it's coming along with this team?
I think it'll be similar. We have, I think, several guys that can score goals, and I wouldn't be surprised if one guy ends up with a lot of goals and maybe leads the team, but I couldn't tell you who that guy is because I think there's several guys that could be that guy. But I also could see it as a team that it's spread pretty evenly, distributed pretty evenly, because I think that's an area where we probably have more depth than I think we've had before. It won't be just one guy we can rely on. It'll be coming from a lot of different sources, and it's not just 2 or 3 or 4 different sources. We can go, I think, fairly deep into our roster and have guys that I think have a lot of goals in them. So I'm really excited to see, I guess, who those guys will be. Because like I said, I think one day it'll be this guy, another day it'll be this guy, and this guy will have a hat trick that day, and this guy can be an all-conference player but maybe not have more than 7 goals. So I think we've got a lot of variety in there.
I know last year's team had its moments, I guess you could say, some ups, some downs. Certainly a fun quarterfinal game here at Bulldog Stadium. What do you think has to be improved upon most to be a contender for the GPAC?
I think finishing games. We found ourselves in a position where we might have the lead, but maybe we surrender it in kind of last stages of a game. And then I think getting on our front foot first. We were competitive and obviously won a lot of games, but we probably tied too many and lost a couple that we shouldn't, in that we conceded first, and they were on things that I think we could have done better at. So I think starting off with the lead, something I think historically we've done well as a program, but last year, for whatever reason, we were kind of constantly battling back. We'd surrender a goal and have to come back, come from behind a lot. So I think we're focused on starting stronger in the first part of the game, and then finishing strong to make sure we can see out these games.
You always hope that your veteran players will lead and will play like the veterans that they are. What is the expectation of Carlos Ferrer and that group of guys?
I think first off, it's being great leaders for our team, which I think they've really done thus far. Our upperclassmen, I think we have maybe 6 seniors, 7 seniors, and I think they've all done a good job of leading within their personality and their skill sets, because they're all different types of leaders. But that's the first thing. We want them to help establish what training looks like in terms of the expectations, and certainly we as coaches help model that, but there's no better way than having upperclassmen model the way you want it to be modeled, so that the new players understand this is what it looks like, this is what it's going to take, and help the newcomers along the way, help them adapt. So I think the biggest thing is expectations of leadership. We certainly expect them to probably play some big roles within our team. whether it's scoring goals, assists, saves, but all the other in measure things that you can't measure, maybe intangibles. We expect those big things and great performances from them, but I think first and foremost it's about them leaving a legacy, and for them to leave a legacy, they've got to pass it down to the next generation of guys.
I know you have a number of guys coming in that are from Lincoln this year, and one of those I think that probably a lot of people that pay attention to soccer in the Lincoln area know is Isaiah Shattuck. And maybe you don't want to necessarily single out one certain guy, but what kind of things does he bring to the table? I know he won quite a few awards during his high school career.
He did, yeah. Obviously, he was voted as one of the top players in the state, and I think Player of the Year of one of the local newspapers. He's a dynamic player. I think he's really good 1v1, and I think he's one of those guys that we were alluding to earlier that has the potential to score goals, and not just score goals, but create chances, set other guys up, and create assists. So he's certainly, I think, from a name recognition out of our incoming class, maybe has the most name recognition, and that he had a lot, like you said, won a lot of awards. But I think the good news for us is we're not putting all our hopes and dreams on just Isaiah Shattuck. I think he'll have a great season and be a great player for us. But we have a lot of other freshmen that will do a great job as well, and I think are well prepared to take us to the next level.
Now, when you look at this schedule, it appears you have a pretty good challenge right away with a road trip to Oklahoma City. But what was the aim, I guess, with this non-conference schedule that you've got together for this fall?
I think this non-conference schedule is one of the more challenging ones we've had in the last few years. I think there's been some good tests over the last few years, but this one, top to bottom, I think almost every team we play has over 10 wins on the season. The preseason poll came out. I think at least 4 of those 6 teams were in the receiving votes for the top 25 or in the top 25. So it's just very challenging competition that will, I think, well prepare us for conference play and for us to accomplish what we want. And we're striving to try and win conference titles, and for us to do that, we're going to need to sharpen ourselves against some top teams, because we have to face some top teams once we get into conference play, and we need to make sure we're prepared for them. So I think it'll be a real challenging, rigorous non-conference, but I think that was really intent to prepare us for conference play. We still want to come out with, our goal is to come out with an unblemished record, and that'll be really challenging to do, and Oklahoma City will be a great first test. Fortunately for us, it's our first game and their first game, but we do face some other opponents that are very quality opponents that might have a couple games on us. That it's maybe their third game, but our second, or their fifth and our third. So there's some experienced teams out there too that'll be good tests for us. So there's, I think, at least 3 teams that went to nationals out of those 6 teams that we play this year too. So it's be a really good test.
Wanted to touch quickly on some alums I know are playing in different leagues, probably all over the world. But we talked about Toby Down this past summer, playing and winning a championship actually in his league. But I know you're proud of all the alums that go on and do successful things. But what does that mean to your program when you have guys that are still playing at levels, pretty high levels after college?
Yeah, it's really cool because, like you mentioned, certainly we're proud of the guys who don't play soccer after college and they go on to lots of different vocations and a lot of different things in life, and we're proud of them and everything they accomplish, and it's really fun being a part of that journey to see them, let's get married or have kids or be in the vocation they want to be in. But it is a little extra special to see some guys continue their career at a high level, because it's not every day. We don't necessarily produce 20 players every year that go pro. But if the guys come here, they work hard, they'll have opportunities beyond college if they want that. And those, Toby Down being one of those, Lewis Rathbone, Marcelo Hernandez, Jack Bennett. These are some guys that have really had some good opportunities recently, and it's just fun to see them continue their careers, because everybody hangs up their cleats at some point, and it's always nice to see them have a few extra years. So I'm excited to see where their careers go and where they can take the game of soccer. But it's good to see them have some success in these leagues. Like I said, Toby Down winning a Hong Kong Premier League championship was really cool to see in his first year as a professional. And then Lewis Rathbone and Jack Bennett both playing for the same team in England, doing well there. So it's been exciting to see. I think it also inspires some of our guys, our current team, to think, oh, well, maybe I do want to do something after college. Maybe they didn't think about that before. But also I think within the recruiting process, it's helpful to be able to talk about these guys that have gone on to play professionally, because some guys want that route for them down the road.
The very last thing, this is your first season, I guess, as a father. So how do you get little Isaiah acclimated to Concordia soccer and what this program's all about?
Well, it'll be a lot of learning along the way. Probably more learning for me than him. I think it's not getting him acclimated; it's getting me and my wife acclimated. But no, it's been a great pleasure so far, and it's been fun to, even have him around the team at times. And I'm excited to see once he starts getting a little older and can really interact with the team and the players. But he'll certainly be exposed to soccer, whether he plays or not. That'll be a question for down the road. But he'll certainly be exposed to it, and I know we have added at least one more Bulldog fan to the stands.